Welcome to Star Bios, the podcast where we delve into the fascinating lives of Hollywood's most captivating stars. I'm your host, Casey Gold, and today we're going to embark on a journey through the mesmerizing world of Jim Morrison, the iconic lead singer of The Doors. With his brooding stage presence, poetic lyrics, and untimely death, Morrison has become a cultural phenomenon, symbolizing the rebellious spirit of the 1960s. As we explore the intricate tapestry of his life, get ready to discover the intriguing story behind the man who would become the embodiment of rock and roll excess and artistic expression. Born on December 8, 1943, in Melbourne, Florida, James Douglas Morrison was the son of Rear Admiral George Stephen Morrison and Clara Clark Morrison. The warm, humid air of the Sunshine State enveloped him from birth, but his family's naval career would soon take them to various locations throughout Jim's childhood, including San Diego, Los Angeles, and even a stint in Virginia. This peripatetic upbringing, with its constant changes of scenery and exposure to new people and experiences, would later influence Morrison's perception of identity and his tendency to embrace the unknown. As a child, Jim was known for his insatiable curiosity and sensitivity, often finding solace in reading and writing poetry. His parents encouraged his creative pursuits, nurturing a love for literature that would eventually become a hallmark of his songwriting style. The family's frequent moves meant that Jim had to adapt quickly to new environments, making friends and navigating unfamiliar social hierarchies. This nomadic existence instilled in him a sense of restlessness, a feeling that he never quite belonged in one place for too long. Growing up in the 1950s, Morrison was exposed to a wide range of musical influences, from the hip-swiveling rockabilly of Elvis Presley to the classical compositions of Chopin. His family's frequent moves introduced him to different regional music scenes, which would later shape The Doors' unique sound. In San Diego, Jim attended La Jolla High School, where he developed a passion for philosophy, particularly the works of Friedrich Nietzsche and Arthur Schopenhauer. These early intellectual explorations laid the groundwork for his future interests in existentialism and the human condition. Morrison's relationship with his father was complex and often strained. Rear Admiral Morrison was a strict disciplinarian who valued order and conformity, whereas Jim was drawn to the unconventional and the avant-garde. This tension would eventually manifest in Jim's rebellious attitude towards authority and his desire for creative freedom. The Admiral's expectations of his son were clear. He wanted Jim to follow in his footsteps, attending the Naval Academy and pursuing a military career. But Jim had other plans. Despite these differences, his parents supported his academic pursuits, and Jim went on to attend the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, where he studied film and theater. It was during this time that Morrison became enamored with the Beat generation, particularly the works of Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. He saw himself as part of a burgeoning counterculture movement, one that rejected mainstream values and sought to create new forms of artistic expression. The UCLA campus, with its sun-kissed hills and bohemian vibe, was the perfect incubator for Morrison's creative ambitions. He spent hours attending lectures, reading poetry, and discussing philosophy with his peers. It was here that he met Ray Manzarek, a fellow student who would later become The Doors' keyboardist. Together, they began to explore the possibilities of merging music, poetry, and theater into a unique form of artistic expression. The historical context of the 1950s and early 1960s, with its emerging youth culture and social upheaval, provided the perfect backdrop for Morrison's artistic evolution. The civil rights movement, the Cold War, and the rise of consumerism all contributed to a sense of disillusionment among young people who were seeking new ways to express themselves and challenge the status quo. A young man with a thirst for knowledge, a passion for art, and a rebellious streak, he was poised to take the world by storm. As Jim Morrison's time at UCLA drew to a close, he found himself increasingly enthralled by the works of Bertolt Brecht, William Blake, and Arthur Rimbaud, whose poetic and philosophical explorations resonated deeply with his own artistic aspirations. The campus, once a hub of intellectual curiosity and creative expression, now seemed stifling, and Morrison yearned to break free from its confines and immerse himself in the vibrant music scene that was unfolding in Los Angeles. His partnership with Ray Manzarek, forged in the crucible of their shared passion for music and poetry, continued to flourish, and in 1965, they welcomed drummer John Densmore and guitarist Robbie Krieger into their fold, thus forming The Doors. The band's name was inspired by Aldous Huxley's seminal book, The Doors of Perception, which explored the idea of expanding one's consciousness through art and experimentation. This concept resonated deeply with Morrison, who saw music as a means to transcend the mundane and tap into the hidden recesses of the human experience. As he delved deeper into the world of poetry and music, Morrison became increasingly fascinated by the works of French symbolist poets like Baudelaire and Verlaine, whose use of rich imagery and suggestive language influenced his own lyrical style. With their unique sound, a mesmerizing blend of rock, jazz, and poetry, The Doors quickly gained a devoted following on the Los Angeles club circuit. Their early performances at iconic venues like the Whiskey A Go-Go and the London Fog were marked by Morrison's electrifying stage presence, which seemed to draw the audience into his world with an otherworldly force. As Manzarek recalled, Jim was like a shaman, weaving a spell of words and music that transported us all to a realm beyond the ordinary. The air was thick with anticipation as Morrison took the stage, his eyes gleaming with an inner intensity, his voice soaring through the crowded room like a dark, melodic incantation. In August 1966, The Doors signed with Elektra Records, and their self-titled debut album was released in January 1967 to widespread critical acclaim. The album was a commercial success, thanks in part to the hit single, Light My Fire, which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and became an anthem for the counterculture movement. This song, with its hypnotic groove and poetic lyrics, captured the mood of a generation seeking change and freedom, its message of liberation and nonconformity resonating deeply with young people disillusioned with mainstream culture. As The Doors' popularity grew, so did Morrison's reputation as a provocative and enigmatic figure. His performances became more theatrical and intense, featuring elements of improvisation and audience interaction that blurred the lines between music, theater, and performance art. He would often read poetry, tell stories, or engage in philosophical discussions with the crowd, creating an immersive experience that drew spectators into his world of myth and metaphor. This approach was influenced by his interests in Antonin Artaud's Theater of Cruelty and the works of avant-garde artists like Marcel Duchamp and John Cage, who pushed the boundaries of artistic expression and challenged conventional notions of reality. In the summer of 1967, The Doors released their second album, Strange Days, which featured songs like People Are Strange and Moonlight Drive. This album showcased the band's growing musical sophistication and Morrison's increasing experimentation with language and form. His lyrics were becoming more abstract and surreal, drawing on mythology, history, and personal experience to create a unique poetic landscape that was both deeply introspective and universally relatable. The song, People Are Strange, with its haunting melody and poignant lyrics, spoke directly to the alienation and disconnection of modern life, while Moonlight Drive conjured up a dreamlike world of love and longing. One of the most significant events in The Doors' career took place on September 17, 1967, when they performed at the Fillmore in San Francisco, sharing the bill with other notable bands like Big Brother and the Holding Company and Jefferson Airplane. This concert marked a turning point for the band, as they began to transcend their local following and gain recognition as one of the leading acts in the emerging counterculture movement. The atmosphere was electric, with Morrison's charismatic stage presence and poetic lyrics weaving a spell of enchantment over the crowd. As the band launched into their set, the audience was transported to a realm of sound and fury, where music, poetry, and rebellion merged into a single, unstoppable force. Morrison's relationship with Pamela Corson, whom he had met in 1965, was also deepening during this period. She became his muse, his confidant, and his partner in creative exploration, inspiring some of his most beautiful and haunting lyrics. As Morrison wrote in his poem, "As I lay dying, the girl of my dreams, she's the one who got away, with my heart, with my soul, with my everything." Corson's influence on Morrison's life and work was profound, encouraging him to explore new themes and emotions in his music. Together, they embarked on a journey of artistic discovery, pushing the boundaries of language and form, and creating a unique poetic landscape that reflected their shared vision of love, beauty, and transcendence. As 1967 drew to a close, the Doors were poised to release their third album, Waiting for the Sun, which would further cement their reputation as one of the most innovative and influential bands of the era. With songs like Hello, I Love You and Not to Touch the Earth, the album showcased the band's growing musical maturity and Morrison's increasing experimentation with language and form. The song Hello, I Love You was a soaring love song, its melody and lyrics capturing the essence of romantic longing, while Not to Touch the Earth was a haunting, apocalyptic vision of a world in chaos. As 1968 dawned, Jim Morrison's life was a maelstrom of creativity, excess, and introspection, like a tempest raging across the desert landscape of his mind. The Doors' third album, Waiting for the Sun, had been released to critical acclaim, with songs like Hello, I Love You, and Not to Touch the Earth, showcasing the band's growing musical maturity, like a ripe fruit bursting with flavor and complexity. However, Morrison's personal life was becoming increasingly turbulent, marked by a deepening dependence on alcohol that threatened to consume him whole, and a fracturing relationship with Pamela Corson, the woman he loved but struggled to hold on to. The tension between his creative genius and personal demons was palpable, like a live wire humming with electricity. Despite these challenges, Morrison remained a prolific songwriter, and the Doors' next album, The Soft Parade, released in 1969, featured some of his most innovative and experimental work. As Morrison once said, "I think of myself as an artist, and I think of my life as a work of art," reflecting his deep-seated commitment to exploring the boundaries of creativity and self-expression, no matter the cost. The Doors' live performances during this period were also becoming increasingly notorious, with Morrison's unpredictable stage presence and poetic monologues mesmerizing audiences like a shamanic ritual. He would often improvise, weaving words and music together like a sorcerer casting spells, leaving the crowd entranced and bewildered. However, his behavior was also growing more erratic, leading to conflicts with the band and concerns about his health. There were nights when he wouldn't show up for performances, or would stumble onto the stage, drunk and incoherent, like a shipwrecked sailor clinging to the wreckage of his own ego. In 1970, the Doors released their fifth album, Morrison Hotel, which featured a return to their blues rock roots and included classics like Roadhouse Blues and Peace Frog. The music was a reflection of Morrison's fascination with the darker corners of American culture, the seedy underbelly of the country's psyche. He was drawn to the raw energy of the blues, the way it seemed to capture the primal scream of the human experience. As he delved deeper into this world, his own demons began to surface, like ghosts rising from the shadows. Tragically, Morrison's life was cut short on July 3, 1971, when he died in Paris, France, under mysterious circumstances that continue to haunt fans and scholars to this day. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but rumors and speculation about the events surrounding his passing have endured, like a whispered secret passed from person to person. Some say it was an overdose, others, a murder, while some claim he faked his own death and escaped into the night, like a phantom disappearing into the fog. Pamela Corson, who had been with him in Paris, died just a few years later, at the age of 27, from a heroin overdose, a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of their shared struggles. Despite his untimely death, Jim Morrison's legacy has only continued to grow, like a garden blooming in the desert. The Doors' music remains widely popular and influential, with songs like Break On Through to the Other Side and L.A. Woman becoming anthems for generations of rebels and outcasts. His poetry and writings have also been published and celebrated, offering insights into his creative process and artistic vision, like a window into the inner workings of his mind. As a cultural icon, Morrison represents the rebellious spirit of the 1960s, embodying the era's ideals of nonconformity, free expression, and artistic experimentation. Today, Jim Morrison is remembered as a complex, multifaceted figure, a poet, musician, and artist who left an indelible mark on our cultural landscape, like a constellation shining bright in the night sky. His music and writings continue to inspire new generations of artists, writers, and musicians, while his legacy serves as a reminder of the power of creativity and self-expression to transform and transcend our lives. What drove him to push the boundaries of creativity and excess? How did his relationships shape his art and his psyche? And what secrets lay hidden behind the enigmatic smile that seemed to mask 1,000 midnights? The mystery of Jim Morrison remains, a siren's call to those who would follow in his footsteps, into the heart of the abyss, where art and madness blur like the edges of a watercolor painting. That's all for today's Star Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm Casey Gold, reminding you to keep shooting for the stars.